Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Paula Lockhart. I am the program manager here at GSA, the Governor School for the Arts, and you are here just in time for us to start our art form specific webinar. And tonight we are going to be talking all about instrumental music. I'm going to have us start off by just getting to know each other a little bit. In the chat, if you could tell us your name and the county that you're from. So I would say my name is Paula and I am from Jefferson County. So if you could, go ahead in the chat and just start introducing yourselves. And then, okay. Hi, Lisa Bella Louise from Jessamine, Cody from Marshall, Jody from Boone. Okay. Hey, Sam from Ohio County. Jesse from Trimble. Hey, Evan from Woodford. Gabe from Fayette. Okay. Andy from Jessamine. Okay, Jessamine County is represented today. Hello, Ashley from Davies. Dominique from Fayette. Hi, Jane from Jefferson County. Awesome. I am so happy that y'all have joined us here tonight. It's a little rainy here in Louisville, so hopefully we have no tech issues. We're gonna cross our fingers, but if anything happens, we will do our best to get you all this information. So I am gonna launch this poll just for us to get to know each other just a little bit more. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the poll and I'm going to give y'all a couple of moments to answer it. And so in this poll, I just want to know, where are you from? Are you a student in 10th or ninth grade? Um, and then also, what art form are you interested in? Of course, instrumental music, but you're allowed to choose others. And then I'm going to ask, have you viewed a recorded a GS, excuse me, viewed a recording of a GSA webinar? And have you applied to GSA before? So I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll right now. Okay. I'm going to give it just a few more moments. Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Okay. So I see almost everyone is eligible to apply for GSA. We got some sophomores and juniors, and then we have a few parents, guardians, or family members of potential GSA applicants. Thank you all for being here. Ooh, almost everyone is interested in instrumental music, of course, so that's awesome. Okay, some folks interested in film and photography, drama, dance, ooh, creative writing, visual art, and vocal music. This is great, y'all. A lot of interdisciplinary folks in our chat right now. This is great. Okay. Have you attended or viewed a recording of a previous GSA virtual info session? Okay, so we got a little more than half have said no, it's okay. All of our virtual info sessions, our webinars are posted online. So you're welcome to go to www.kentucky, spelled all the way out, KentuckyGSA.org. And then there you can find those recordings and watch them there. And have you applied to GSA before? Okay, so a majority of our folks, this will be their first time applying. That's wonderful. Okay, thank you all so much for being such good sports and filling out this poll for me. One thing I will say is that after this webinar is over, if you are watching us, if you are with us right now on Zoom, there will be a survey that pops up at the end. We ask you to please fill this out. This helps us get great demographic information and helps us figure out how we can broaden our reach so that we're seeing more people around from each corner of Kentucky. Okay. So before we get started, I'm gonna just do a mini introduction of myself again. Again, my name is Paula Lockhart. I'm the program manager here at GSA. I've been here at GSA since February 2021, so not too terribly long, but I've been connected to the arts my entire life. I'm a theater artist, educator. Currently, when I'm not at GSA, I teach at Commonwealth Theater Center, and I am a playwright as well as a director. I'm joined here by some amazing folks. I'm going to start by introducing my colleague, our program coordinator, Aminata Jah Finch.
Hello. Again, my name is Aminata Jah Finch. I know that's a mouthful. You can just call me Ami. So it's Amy with an I. Outside of GSA, I am a creative writer. I love writing literature for younger people. So I think you all are the perfect demographic for my books.
Wonderful, wonderful. Ami is also one of the first amazing people that you will ever talk to at GSA. So a lot of times the GSA info box, when you email us that or if you call the helpline, Ami will be the one who will answer that and help you out. So have no fear, Ami is here.
Yes.
Thank you, Ami.
You're welcome.
And then, of course, the man of the hour, the incomparable Dr. Rich Byrd. Rich has been on faculty at GSA for how long, Rich?
Hi, Paula. It's been quite a while. many years.
Many moons. Rich is amazing. He is currently our dean of faculty and the chair of the instrumental music let's say department. So Rich, please introduce yourself. I'm so happy to have you here with us.
Thank you, Paula. I'm Rich Byrd, and you can call me Rich. And I, besides teaching for GSA, which I love, that I've been doing almost since the program began, I've been teaching at Eastern Kentucky University in the School of Music for the last, this is my 15th year there. And I am a trumpet player. I've got my undergrad degree in trumpet performance, and I love playing trumpet for every kind of imaginable thing that will hire a trumpet player. So I've been doing that all over the state. And besides teaching, I just really love playing, but I also teach private lessons and I teach music theory classes at EKU.
Nice. Thank you so much for being here with us, Rich.
Sure.
Awesome. So before we get into the specifics about instrumental music, I am going to give us a brief overview of where we're at on the timeline with GSA. So I'm going to share my screen again. Just give me one moment. Bear with me, folks. Uh-uh-uh. Okay, so you're here for a virtual info session, and today is all about instrumental music. So this is our timeline. Um, GSA 101 webinar was the first one we had, had on October 1st. Again, all of our webinars are available on our website. Um, October 13th, the applicant guides were released, and that is available on the website. And now, here in November, we're starting these art form specific webinars. Anything that you like missed, or if you have a friend who was interested and they couldn't see it, give us 1 to 2 business days and you'll be able to pull it up on YouTube. On December 1st, we're going to be having GSA 101 again. And so that will be a general overview of GSA as a whole. And we just want to be able to reach more people than we did the first time. And then on December 15th, that is when we're going to be having an open Q&A webinar. So for that webinar, we are going to be here to ask any questions that you all may have. So just kind of reiterating, today is Today's session is a part of a larger series of virtual info sessions that GSA has been hosting throughout the autumn for our applicants, our parents, and our educators. We want you all to take advantage of these resources to learn more and ask questions and connect with the GSA team. One thing to note is that most of these webinars take place at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which means it will be 4 p.m. Central Time. And the cool thing about webinars is that there is this cool thing called a Q&A button. So if you do have any questions throughout the duration of this webinar, please put your question in the Q&A area, and then we will ask it when we come to the point of questions. Cool. All right. So remember, these info sessions are not the only way that you can get information about the GSA application process. You can contact us with any kind of questions at the GSA helpline, which is 502-566-5192, or email us at gsainfo@kentuckyperformingarts.org. Here's the thing, there are no scary adults at GSA waiting to judge you. We love chatting on the phone with our applicants. I think we all love being on the phone, period. So it's our pleasure and our job to help you out. So please feel free to utilize us as resources. And also follow us on social media. That's our Facebook, the Kentucky Governor School for the Arts. And in our GSA, it's the same thing, just a little shorter. All right, so let's quickly review some information about the GSA summer program itself. GSA is a 3-week residential summer program that takes place on a college campus. Students attend GSA for one of 9 art forms, and the program is completely tuition free. And if you haven't heard, we recently made an exciting announcement that we're about to double the size of our program for the next 3 years, thanks to supplemental funding provided by the Kentucky Department of Education. This means we expect to grow from a previous class size of 256 to accepting approximately 500 students for the summer of 2022. We're still finalizing exactly how and when and where this expansion is going to take place. And there are many questions that you may have. Some of them we won't have the answers to just yet. That being said, we will release any and all information as soon as we have it. But I can tell you what we do know. What we do know is that GSA's summer program will take place in June and or July of next summer, and at least some of the student body will have their GSA experience on the campus of our current host institution, the University of Kentucky. To determine the class size for each specific art form in our expanded model, we're looking at how many students have applied to each art form over the past few years and trying to ensure all art forms have similar as possible acceptance ratios. This means that while the total number of students we accept will grow across the art form, across all art forms will double, some art forms will grow in size more than others. While numbers are subject to change for a little bit for instrumental music, we like with instrumental music, we're going to have 50 student spots with a total of like 50 student spots to a total of 98 student spots. So that means it's going to decrease by like 2 students overall. Does that make sense? So we're going to be going from 50 students overall to like 98. So that means we're expanding, and it's going to be really fun. Okay, a few things to note. You must currently be a sophomore or junior to apply. We will not ask for your GPA, SAT, or ACT scores because we don't need them during this process at all. And you can apply for up to 2 art forms. There is an application fee of $30 or $35 if you plan on applying for 2 art forms, but this fee is waived by the click of a button in the application for students who qualify for free or reduced lunch. And then of course, we're very happy to like speak to you today about instrumental music, and we're confident that today's session will be helpful. But remember that today's session will not be 100% comprehensive. And there are some other very important resources that you need to utilize about the program and the application, all of which are on the website. Be sure to read the applicant guide for instrumental music if you're, still interested and intend on applying. And we're going to review the applicant guide and as a part of today's conversation. But you should take some time to go through it yourself. So here's another timeline. Speaking of our deadlines. So the GSA 2022 application is due by the end of day, January 9th. Note that this is a Sunday and the GSA office is not staffed on the weekends. This means on January 7th, that's the last day that you can call or email us without questions. We recommend, though, that you complete your application at least 1 week in advance of the January 9th deadline. There are going to be a lot of people who are trying to use Accepted at that same time, and that might make the platform run just a little slower. Students will learn if they've advanced to the advanced to the second and final round on February 18th, about 1 month before the final round auditions take place on March 18th and 19th. Now, GSA's final round auditions usually take place in person at the University of Kentucky. Although, given the unknowns of COVID, you can expect to learn more about the process later on in the application cycle. We're going to announce the class of GSA 2022 as well as the alternates placed on the wait list on April 15th. And then finally, GSA 2022 will take place in June or July 2022. However, we do expect to announce those. Oh Lord, I can't speak, y'all. We do expect to announce those exact dates in about a month or so. So that's a quick overview about the summer program itself. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then pull up the applicant guide. Okay, so now I'm going to pull up my instrumental music applicant guide and I'm going to show it to y'all. And we're going to start with the program description. And let me zoom in if I can. Ami, can you see this okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So GSA's instrumental music program is structured to introduce a broad spectrum of musical styles and philosophies, developing students' fundamental musicianship. Students are provided with a unique range of musical experiences not typically available to high school musicians. This includes participation in faculty coached chamber ensembles, both classical and jazz styles, and in seminars about auditions, college choices, careers, practicing techniques, resumes, and competitions. In addition to weekly studies in music history and music theory, instrumental music students receive private instruction from GSA faculty or adjunct professional guest artists. Nationally recognized guest artists present workshops in the areas of performance and music related career opportunities. Students also attend live musical performances and partake in off-campus field trips. The instrumental music program presents over 50 chamber music performances, 10 solo piano pieces, and various interdisciplinary collaborative performances with some of the other GSA disciplines on the final day of the program. So now I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And now, Rich, I am going to ask you.
Yes.
What is it like attending GSA for instrumental music?
Well, that's wonderful, but I'm a little biased. To give you an idea, or who's out there listening, what it's like to attend GSA for instrumental music, one of the huge differences between our program and a lot of other music camp programs is that we focus on chamber music, and we really try to work with students to learn to be independent. So while we're there coaching you, and we have our own faculty there, and we have guest artists there. We have adjunct faculty come in. We're still striving to teach all the students to be able to teach themselves how to be better musicians and work with each other. So we do not have this traditional standard orchestra or the traditional standard concert band that you might have in a lot of music programs during the summer. So this is a chamber music focus, which, in case anybody doesn't know what I mean by that, that just means small a number of musicians on an ensemble with typically one on a part.
Okay. That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Rich.
Sure.
So, before we get into a little bit more of the specifics, I'm going to chat some about the recommendation process.
Okay.
So, I'm going to again share my screen. And then, Rich, I'll ask you how the recommendations work for you all as adjudicators and what they help you with. So,
Okay.
let me share my screen and get to that. All right. So, for the preliminary round, you will have to turn in 2 recommendation forms. So, with the recommendation forms, you're going to identify 2 people who will complete those forms for you in support of you coming to GSA. Each person will complete the same form separately. Now, in the past, GSA has asked for a teacher and school administrator. The recommendation guidelines have changed this year to broaden the scope of who may complete these forms. Please review the new guidelines below. We're going to do it together. The guideline form includes questions about your artistic abilities and potential, how you contribute to your learning environment and community, and your overall fit for GSA. If you can select 2 recommenders who can speak to your artistic abilities, we encourage you to do so. However, we understand that not every applicant will have 1 or 2 recommenders who have experienced the student's artistry. In this case, you can select 2 recommenders who can speak towards your character, accountability, and or work ethic. Recommenders can be teachers from inside or outside of your school in any subject. They can be school administration, like a guidance counselor, or a mentor or other people involved in your personal or artistic development, such as a coach, youth minister, or staff at an organization for which you volunteer. What you're going to do is enter their names and email addresses, the one of each recommender. You'll put those in your online profile, and then those individuals will receive an email instructing them on how to complete the recommendation form. This should take about 5 minutes. So, these are 2 things you should do before you put in your recommender's information. Let them know that you're applying for GSA and you would like to list them as a recommender. Just give them a great heads up. And so if they have any questions about GSA, you can tell them what GSA is about and why you're passionate about it. Confirm what email address you should have for them. That is really, really important because sometimes people can put in the wrong email address and then your recommender will never get the recommendation. And then it's like 2 days before your application is due. And they're like, oh, I never got it. And we have to, put in we'll do a last minute rush, but we don't want anyone to stress out. So help you and help us and just get the right email the first time. So you're going to submit your recommender's information as soon as possible so they have plenty of time to complete the forms before January 9th. And then after you submit their information, you're going to tell them to check their email and then ask them to confirm with you that they did submit the form. And then after that, you're going to move on to the other parts of your application. So here's just a little bit more about recommendations. No letters of recommendations are needed. So we don't need you to send us a letter. We don't need your recommenders to send us a letter. We just want them to fill out that form. Applicants, you should not be able to see what your recommenders say. Your parent or immediate family cannot fill out the recommendation form. And we encourage you to choose recommenders based on the guidelines we've listed, so that we know that they are within those. We don't want you to kind of choose someone that's a little outside of that realm. Because if you do, they might not be able to speak to all the things that we're looking for them to speak towards. If you're applying for two art forms and using the same recommenders, they must complete two forms, one for each art form, even if the answers are identical. So if Rich and Ami were my recommenders and I was applying for instrumental music and drama, they would both receive the recommendation forms and they would both have to fill them out for me. So I'm going to stop my screen. Now, Rich,
Yes.
how do you all as adjudicators use these recommendation forms, and what are you looking for in the recommendation forms?
Well, first of all, just to reiterate what you're saying, the recommendation forms, besides part of the application process, are very, very important. And the
Mhm.
students should carefully pick who their persons are going to be. A couple things, just as a good teachable moment, when Paula and the recommendation form recommends that you give them plenty of notice, sometimes to a teenager, they think 12 hours is plenty of notice. So to let you know that typically 1 to 2 weeks is sort of the minimum that you want to give people, if at all possible. Sometimes it may not be possible, but typically it's possible for you to, if you're up on this and you're thinking ahead of time and not waiting until the last minute, because people who are writing recommendations for you don't like to be pressured to have to do something in the last minute. And what they call the last minute are usually just a couple days.
Mhm.
So usually to teenagers, a couple days seems like a long, long time, but just to kind of let you know how important this process is,
Mhm.
try to establish these people and trying to give them 1 to 2 weeks notice. And then the other important thing is, while the language they use there says strongly encourage, this is something that really, as far as when you're asking for people, you need to really ask them before you just surprise them. And
Mhm.
while we say they strongly encourage them, you really should actually ask these people before you just list their names, if it's okay. This is something you want to learn even later in life, that you never want to put anybody's name down for a recommendation that you didn't at least give a heads up to or ask, because you don't
Mhm.
know what they might, and no one wants to be surprised. I've done probably over 100 recommendations for people over the years and stuff, and you never want to be surprised all of a sudden you get a name and it's like, oh, I'm supposed to write a recommendation for this person. So if you can, and I know you can, make sure you see if you could contact that person and just ask them. And more than likely, if they have a working relationship with you, they'd be very happy to. But it's just better to do that than to surprise them and give them 1 to 2 weeks notice. Now, how we use those is, first of all, we read these. We actually read these. These are not just a format and just a necessary thing that we just kind of shuffle around. We read these and take them to heart. And it's very important, like it says there, if you can find somebody who, well, this would be obvious to you, find someone who can address and talk about your artistic qualities.
Mhm.
And even if you can't find 1 or 2 people, that other thing is equally as important, where they can talk about your character and your accountability and your work ethic. And we'd like to see what the person even talks about your art form, if they address those as well. Because in music field, probably like any performing arts, it's not just enough to be a good violinist. We have to know that we can count on you. Are you going to be at rehearsals? Are you going to be preparing what you're supposed to do? Are you going to follow directions? All these things are very important. So that character, as far as a person who takes it seriously and owns up to that and is accountable, where you can count on that person, and they have a great work ethic to prepare for this, is very, very important. So we read the letters, we're looking for that. We're looking for the people to talk about not just how wonderful they play the tuba, it's just how responsible they are in the band program or in the orchestra or whatever program they're in. Is it something that that director or a teacher or whoever it is, mentor, can count on? They can say, yes, I always can count on that person. If it's Paula, say Paula's always there. She's early. She shows up. She prepares her stuff. Every time I ask them to write things down, she writes things down. And you want people to say that about you. So find people who you know real well, who know not only your artistic form, but know you as a person and how
Mhm.
responsible and reliable you are as a person.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rich. This is excellent advice. As a person who is sort of new to writing recommendation letters. Really wish that people would give me more time. So I really appreciate that tidbit. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, so I am gonna, you guessed it, share my screen again. Oh, like all this lady does is share her screen. Okay, so the next thing that you're gonna need is your personal short essay. This is 250 words max. The question is, describe your personal connection to your art form or creative practice. Why and how is it important to you on a personal level? Be honest, open, authentic in your response. Let us learn about you. Upload this essay as a document file. Type out the question at the top of your response so the question and the answer are both in the document. The question restatement does not count as the word count limit, and when you're uploading your essay, you're going to title the file personal short essay. Then there is the the personal question video. Similar things. This is the question for it. Describe your vision for how your individual artistic work / creative practice can impact others. How do you want to affect others through art, and or what response do you hope to have you hope others have to your work? So we're encouraging you to be open, honest, authentic in your response. Let's learn something about you. While we encourage you to prepare your thoughts before shooting the video, and you may consult notes as you speak, please do not read off of a transcript. We want to get a sense of your personality. Do record in an interior space that is free from interruptions, noise, etc. Do not edit or splice the video. You do not need to include an introductory frame or any effects, such as like fade in, fade out, anything like that. So with that video, shoot straight on, leaving the camera in one place. Review the video to ensure that you can be seen and heard. Ensure the video plays all the way to the end. And then when uploading the personal question video, you're going to title it Personal Question Video. So now I'm going to stop sharing. Uh-oh. Oh my goodness, you all never saw that. My goodness. I'm so sorry. Oh no, you can't see that. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. So, Rich, those
Yes.
essay responses, what are you all looking for in those? What does the adjudication team look for, and how can the applicant best formulate their responses to them?
Well, first of all, they are, again, of utmost importance. We really want to hear what you have to say when you write your essay, and what you say when you record yourself. We are not looking for the best grammarist or the best writer. We just want exactly what it says in that opening statement, where it says we're just looking for an honest, open response that talks about who you are as a person. And so when students, and I'm going to try and avoid, I know it's hard to, but avoid just saying what not to do. But when students typically write these, they try to think and they try to guess, what do the judges think I should say? And it's really not about what I think you should say. It's, I want to hear what you have to say. So there is not a quote unquote right or wrong answer, because there is no right answer when it comes to you. You're talking about, you as a person. So you don't really try to guess how I should phrase this for the judges to impress them. Do I need to use flowery language? Do I need to have an English grammar teacher read over this so that it's all proper? It could be full of bad grammar as far as I'm concerned. But if you're honest and open, because I just want to hear about what you have to say. It's not to say that you would be careless about it and not care what you write or say on this. You certainly should prove that and stuff to show that you care enough about it. But this is not an English competition, and this is not an essay competition. So we really, really want you to not worry and focus about like you would for an English class, and not try to second guess and think about what you need to say for the judges. Sometimes it's nice to get help from other people. You got mentors, you have teachers, you have parents, and they're all well-meaning. They all try and say, well, you can't write like that. You can't say stuff like that. And we need to spruce this up a little to sound really, like you're more intelligent or more academic or something like that. And that's not best advice. Um, I have to let you know that we really want to see what really impresses us. I'm letting you know here as a judge, I will be judging and listening to you all. And what impresses us is honesty, where we can see that this is this person. It's genuine. We want to see what's genuine, what's real, what's honest about yourself. And it's interesting because we talked about earlier about following directions, and that's part of a character type of thing. And it says specifically, we do not want you to read off of a script where someone has literally written off everything and reads off a script word for word. And then some people do that. So again, that's probably not the best thing to do, especially when you ask you not to do that. Now, I understand a lot of people think I get all flustered. My brain goes blank. If I don't have it written out, I'm not used to memorizing all these drama lines like these great drama kids can do. I mean, I'm just like, this is not my thing. So I kind of have to write it out in order to get my thoughts out there, because otherwise I'd just be staring at the screen, like a deer in headlights. So I understand that, but that's where we mentioned that you just put in some words or fragments or things that you want to talk about. It doesn't have to be formed in the best academic sentences. So again, I would try and avoid writing out a narrative where you just read that. And it's okay if you stumble or stutter or, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to say that word, something like that. And if it's really bad and you don't like it, you just record it again or rewrite it. That's what's great about it. But it's okay if it has a few human glitches in it, because we're human. So we just mostly really, like it says on the literature there, we really want to get a sense of who you are and the real genuine you.
That's awesome. I really appreciate you pointing out the aspect that we're all humans. I think that's something that we tend to forget when we're applying for things. We think we have to be the perfect person, the perfect candidate, the perfect whatever. But like even the person who is reviewing whatever application, job, college application, whatever, they're humans too. So, always say, give yourself grace and space. Give
Excellent.
yourself grace and space. Awesome. So I'm gonna share my screen again. Oh, I shared the wrong screen. Hold on. There we go. Mm, Sorry, y'all. Give me 2 seconds. I don't know why it keeps going the screen too. Okay. Okay. So then we have art form specific questions. These will be they're questions about your interest in the art form, and they're questions about like your level of access to certain training classes, lessons in your area. I'm sorry, y'all. My screen just kind of went funky on it. Give me 1 second. Okay, there we go. We should be back on our art form specific questions. My apologies. Um, Applicants can review these specific questions for their art form once they have submitted their recommender information. Again, there's no right or wrong answers for these questions, nor are we looking for one profile of student over another. Rather, we ask these questions to understand the applicant in the fullest context possible. We want to know all the information about you that we can so that your adjudicators can make the best decisions. Now, E and F, those are the scales and rudiment and the prepared solo videos. So all applicants must submit one a scales and or a rudiment video, and two, a prepared solo video. Percussionists must have two of each, and then there are more details below. However, depending on your instrument, your video submissions will look a little different. I'm going to go over the information that is standard in all of the videos. All applicants must upload a legible PDF copy of the solo that they are playing. You and your hands must be visible the entire time. If using a music stand, position it so your body is obstructed as little as possible. Each video must be recorded in one take. No edits, splicing, or stops are allowed. Transitions between scales should be swift. Human or technological assistants, i.e., metronomes and tuners, no humans or technological assistants, i.e., metronomes or tuners, are allowed. No accompaniment, live recorded electronic, is allowed. Applicants are not permitted to wear headphones/earbuds while playing their instrument in videos. Record your video in an interior space that's free from interruptions, background noise, etc. Shoot straight on, leaving the camera in one place. When you're recording, verify that image is upright and not sideways, and always play smoothly till all the way to the end. For the scales video, play scales in eighth notes at the minimum tempo of 120 BPM to the quarter note. Play a different scale degree note on each note. For example, do not play 2/8 notes per pitch. Use rhythm below as a guide, and be sure to review specific scale instructions for your instrument. Pianists, note the rhythm exception in the piano section below. So this is the major scale pattern. And as you scroll further down, it gives you more information for if your instrument is a woodwind or a brass, for strings and guitar, piano, and then percussion. So I'm going to stop my screen. This is the part that I am, even though I was in the band, know least about. I play the euphonium. So Rich, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I got a lot to say.
Okay.
But well, first of all, I'd still like to, again, this can't be emphasized enough to stress to everybody. We have spent, and I have spent, and the administration spent a lot of time writing these points for you as far as to make you successful for these auditions. They are all important. There's none of them that are just fluff or filler information. So it's of critical importance that you follow all the directions. I can't say that enough. Every time you want to write a recommendation letter, you want to prepare a scale, you want to pick your piece, whatever sight reading, the prepared piece, doesn't really matter what the topic is, follow the directions. Please, please follow the directions, because that shows something about you if you don't follow directions, like you didn't read it, or you're not that, careful, or that type of thing. Even if you are probably the best of your instrument in your school, you could be eliminated because you're not following these directions, because you just said, oh, I'll just play scales the way I like to play scales. I'll just play the piece however I want to play the piece. And I know you probably wouldn't say it that flippantly, but people have sort of that, kind of give off that sort of attitude by ignoring the directions that we have. So that's the first thing I have to say, because that's what we discuss as adjudicators every year. It's like, well, it says not to do this, but they did that, and they did this, this, and that, and we're not supposed to do that either. So what do we do about that? They've played really well. It's like, well, they didn't follow directions, and it's not right or fair for all the other people who follow directions. So that is something I can't emphasize enough. But as far as scales go, besides all the technical things, which you don't need for me to read to you again, do read those, because some of the scale pitches or choices are a little different for some instruments. You will notice if you read it, I don't have to go through and tell you which ones they are, but the brass and the woodwinds are different than each other, the actual scales that they have to play. We're all playing major scales, all instruments, no matter if it's strings, piano, percussion, but there are some differences between different instruments. And there are some differences on who can do 2 octaves, 1.5 octaves, the exceptions, and all that stuff. Again, you can read all those for yourself. But I have to say, this is very critical, because a lot of times I know people have done scales either all their life that they've been playing, or maybe this is new to them. And that's probably one of the most, I guess, what's the word I want? Students who, I guess, biggest gripes. I hate scales. I don't like scales. And I totally understand, because they're not fun, and they seem like they're a lot of boring things. So why I have to do them? Why are these people making us do it? Is this just like a initiation to some, thing that we have to do that everyone made them do it, so we have to do it too. But I got to let you know something. Every single piece of music that you have in your folder right now, that's from the common practice period, I can tell you what scale or chord is in it. That's how important these scales are. And we don't even have you play chords, or what we call arpeggios, where you play one note of a chord at a time. So all music is made up of scales and chords. And we're talking about all tonal music from the common practice period, not kind of the crazy 20th century where you can just, light an instrument on fire and call that a piece of music. So I'm talking about all the music that you all have been playing in the common practice period that is tonal has scale basis or arpeggio basis. That's why it's important, because that's what all music has. So we need to see that you've done the work and you can play these scales. You need to play them exactly as they're said. They have to be played in time and they have to be played accurately. So take your time to learn these slowly, one at a time, so that you can put them all together on one take. Because you can't splice these and do one scale one day, another scale the next day. So you have to learn the scales slowly and carefully, very, very slowly with a metronome, so that you can play them in time. I guess the adjudicator's biggest gripe is that students are playing these very, very flashy and very fast on their instruments, but they don't have a very good sound and they're not in time at all, or they're just kind of very sloppy, which for us is still not in time. And it's very important to show us that you have control over this. And again, it's not just an ability, musical ability. It's goes to a character where he's like, it's not that important to me, or I don't really think it's that a big deal if I just kind of play these close enough. Close is good, and close is not good. You need to practice these with the metronome so they're accurate. And everyone has time to do this. So take the time, work these scales out really, really slowly with a metronome, so that when you finally record them with all the qualifications we say at the proper tempo, then you will have a good product. So that's the best thing I can say about the scales, is that what we typically see is people not being careful with them and just kind of throwing them together last minute, because they're not the fun part of the audition, but they actually give us a lot of information and they do count.
Awesome. Thank you, Rich. The last part that I'm going to show you all and we're going to chat about before we go into Q&A is criteria. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so the work of each student will be given an objective review by the adjudicators as to how they fulfill each of the following criteria: rhythm, tempo, evenness. The ideal candidate plays evenly with the correct rhythms. There are no pauses or restarts. In the preliminary round application, a quarter note is equal to 120 BPM in scale/rudiments video. Technical accuracy. An ideal candidate plays with proper fingering, bowing, or sticking technique. Solos are played with precision. Musicality, tone, intonation. An ideal candidate plays with in an appropriate stylistic manner with musical expression, with characteristic instrument sound and in tune. Dedication to art form, growth, and community. An ideal candidate demonstrates a commitment to and passion to their art form, as well as a desire and ability to grow as an artist. The applicant can thoughtfully and authentically explain how they want to attend GSA and how they are uniquely qualified to contribute to a robust, diverse community of artists. And I'll go ahead and read this because it's on the page, but note this is for final round only. Rhythmic and melodic sight reading proficiency. As a successful applicant plays in time with correct rhythms, there are no pause or restarts. In the melodic sight reading, pitches are played accurately. The piece is played in an appropriate stylistic manner with musical expression, with characteristic instrument sound and in tune. So these are a few tips about choosing a piece. Choose one piece that does all of these things, and I'm not going to read these out loud to you because I think some of this is a little bit self-explanatory. And Rich, if you do not think that is self-explanatory, please tell me, and I can read them out loud.
I don't think you need to read them out loud.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And Rich, do you have any final thoughts on like the criteria and how you all judge students based on the criteria?
Well, I mean, just before that, are we not discussing the prepare piece? Because I know we had a detailed thing about the scales, but they have a prepared
Prepare
piece as
piece.
well. Before we just talk about the general criteria, do you know what I'm talking about? Because I just wanted to address that as well.
Me too, shakes.
And we're talking about the preliminary rounds.
Yes.
Yes, for the preliminary rounds, besides all the recommendations,
Oh, I'm sorry,
uh,
the personal solos.
yes, the personal solos.
Yes, I'm so
That's
sorry. I
okay.
can go back to it. Yeah.
Yeah, we
My
probably want to go back to that because that's the students. They really need to know about how to pick them and what should they pick and that type of thing.
yeah,
That's a
my
big,
apologies, y'all. Give me two shakes. Mm, 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 mm. So, here's one thing with the prepared solo. I think I understand what I'm saying. It's under each different piece of each different instrument
yes.
group.
All right, yeah, right. And that would be
But
a lot to read all those.
no, it's okay. No, we have the time. No worries. I just can't believe I missed it. Okay, so we're gonna start right here with the woodwinds and the brass. So there's the scale video, minute and 30 seconds max, and then there's the personal solo video. Again, all applicants must select and play a solo of their choice. All applicants must upload an legible PDF copy of the solo that they are playing. Announce your name and your piece, and announce your name and your piece before you Play it, stating both the composer and the title. So that is the base information for all of the personal solo videos. And then I'm gonna scroll down here. Look at all these amazing things. Mm-mm-mm. Okay, so nope, that's percussion. So for like selecting your music, you're gonna again demonstrate music that have we need to see you demonstrating both the technical and musical aspects to the best of your ability. Is from the standard repertoire, literature, or equivalent of music from your area. You need to know this well. You have performed it before and you enjoy playing it. It has to demonstrate your ability to perform in time with other musicians. Avoid selecting a piece as primarily rubato in nature. I don't know if I said that word right. Rich
You
will
did.
tell me. I did? Okay, awesome. Um, this piece needs to be one that's not too difficult, but not too easy for you to play. Difficult literature performed poorly is not impressive, and easy literature, although performed well, may not provide enough information for the judges. Jazz and contemporary music selections are allowed, but classical literature is preferred. So you will see, folks, that is underlined. Whenever you see anything underlined as you are applying for colleges, grants, whatever, that means that is extra important.
Mhm.
Avoid performing excerpts from previously used auditions, for example, like All State Week. And then this is a very important tip. You want to seek advice from your private teachers, ensemble director, or someone who is familiar with the GSA instrumental music program. So that means if there are people in your area whom you can reach out to about selecting your music, reach out to them. Awesome. So, Rich, can you chat a little bit about the solo piece?
Yeah, like what you're saying, everybody probably needs to look under their individual area because while there are things that are appropriate for all the instruments, there are sometimes some things specific to just some. Like pianists are required to play their piece by memory, whereas a flute player is not required to play their piece by memory. So you want to make sure if you're a pianist or a violinist or flutist, whatever, flautist, that you need to read the appropriate comments about what you're supposed to do in your area. So, but as far as the general things that apply for everybody, what you read is covers it really well. I know they're called tips. They're tips because they're not really requirements, but it's something that's very strategic for you. So when we say tips, it's like, this is good strategies, because students typically say, what would be a good piece for me to play? And of course, if you're trying to win an audition, you want the best strategy for you.
Yep.
And so those tips are help give you the best strategy to get you ahead of one person or another, because a lot of people are really, really good. There's a lot of people that are playing that you compete against, and it's really, really hard to tell. So if you want an advantage over someone, read those tips, because they're very, very important. Things that come up is kind of like, we might ask a person, how long have you been playing this piece? Now, if they've only been playing a couple of weeks, then maybe they should have practiced it a little bit longer. And somebody might have been spending 2 years on that. It's like, well, how many other pieces have you done? It's like, no, just that one. And so they're just bringing out the same little piece for every audition they've done in the world. So those are extremes, but you want to try and avoid kind of extremes, because we'll probably ask those kind of questions from you when we do the interview or talk to you about, or if we're just trying to decide some things. So again, we mentioned a few specific things in those tips. Audition music that are just excerpts for like band programs like All-State and All County and All Division, these kind of things, or just auditions for your youth orchestra or something like that. Those are probably not the best things to play. There's something some people have had for months, especially for All-State. We want you to pick literature that is appropriate for your instrument, something that is written for your instrument. Like a violinist should pick something written for a violinist. A saxophone should try and pick something written for the saxophone, as opposed to try and find something that was written for another instrument and they just kind of rewrote it for that instrument. So while you can do transcriptions, it's very important to strategize and think about what piece is going to be appropriate for you. Now, what I mean by appropriate for you, well, as we said in the tips and everything everywhere else, find something that highlights the best things you can do. That almost seems obvious, but sometimes I've seen some people bring in something and the whole piece is based on a technique that they're just now learning. That doesn't seem to be a good strategy. So if you're good at this, and that, then find a piece that emphasizes those three things and wow us with that type of thing. And I know you might say, well, is that being honest or something like that? Well, you're trying to win an audition. You're trying to win something. You want to put, as we say, your best foot forward. Does anybody ever give advice, say, put your worst foot forward? No one ever says that.
Nope,
Put
not
your
at all.
worst foot forward. So since no one says that, why pick a piece that highlights the things that you're struggling at, that you need to develop more? So find a piece that shows the good things that you do. And don't worry about, I'm being honest, because we will tell if there's some things that need work on, but you definitely don't want to highlight those things. So looking at pieces of music, that's what you should do. I wouldn't eliminate a piece of music just because it has one note in it that might be a little high for your range or something like that. Maybe 95% of that piece really shows what you can do. And so there is a lot involved in thinking about what piece you should play. It needs to highlight the things that you do really well, not just what you think would be strategic that the judges will be most impressed by. Because sometimes you go to your advice from a teacher, a band director, or orchestra teacher, and they say, oh, this is a great piece. That'll wow the judges because it's a college level piece. Well, just as we wrote down, it's not impressive if you do a college level piece poorly. You don't get any points for bravery. So it might seem like you would, but I know we didn't say that in the document, but you don't get points for bravery. So you should find something that you do well. So even though it might be a great warhorse piece that is impressive, it's only impressive if you do it well. So find that piece of music that you do well. And then we also say a piece that you love, because quite frankly, that love that you have, that passion for music, when we're talking about music, I mean, it's the same for all art forms, but you can tell when someone has a passion and love for that sound because it comes out in their music. Now, if you picked a piece of music because, number one, you thought this is strategic because this is a hard piece and it's going to impress the judges, and then two, this is something that all these great performers do, but I don't really like it, then you're not going to get that music across to the judges. So it's important to find something that speaks to your heart so that you can speak to our heart, with your music. Something you're passionate about will exude passion when you're listening to it. So musicality is everything. And if it doesn't strike a chord with you, it's probably going to be stale coming out to us. So that's why when you're talking to your teachers, have a nice, honest talk with them and say, this piece doesn't really move me. I don't get it. And hopefully they'll kind of work with you and they'll say, well, it's a great piece. You should just suck it up and do it anyway, because you need to really, really, really think about playing a piece that moves you, that really brings something, that's personal to you, that you can feel in musicality and you can express that to the judges, and something that highlights the good things that you do, the things you do well. Those are the kind of things we're looking at. And those are the kind of things that will impress the judges. And all the other things fall to the wayside.
Awesome. Awesome. Rich, really quickly, this is a very selfish ask. Can you talk about one of the favorite things that I love that instrumental music does, which is improv?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's one of our favorites, and actually, it's one of the other discipline favorites. So at GSA, what is unique again to this program that I love, I didn't get to mention earlier, why you should come to GSA and be a part of it, is not only do you study in your own art form, but you learn so much about other art forms, not just by attending a concert and seeing a drama monologue or a dance, something like that. You actually engage and work with these other students in these other art forms in not just activities, but in classes. We have interdisciplinary classes and activities where we do projects that are just maybe process oriented and something where we learn, and some might end up being a product oriented thing where at the final day we do things, in collaboration with other art forms. The one we would love to do on final day, but time unfortunately prevents us from doing that, is instrumental for music for several years, has worked with drama students.
Mhm.
And after about 3 weeks, the drama students have learned their monologues or their scenes that they do with, with 2 or 3 people. And by then they've got those really well down, and they're learning them, and they've got those worked out. So they're just about ready to perform this for the final day. And the instrumental students have been working on doing improvisation, which sounds kind of scary for a lot of people, but we've had a lot of success with this over the years. And we're not talking about jazz improvisation. This is just free improvisation. And you can never have improvised a note in your life. And we have so many students say this was so scary at first, but I just loved it at the end because it just opened up my eyes to a whole new world that I was not used to. And you don't have to have any background, because we actually take you through lots and lots of activities to learn and develop and feel comfortable doing that. So you don't have to be scared about it anymore. And so the instrumental students watch the drama students do their monologues and their scenes, and they take their instruments without music on a piece of paper, and they just start playing, improvising to what they see and interacting with them. And they kind of have a little session. We give them like an hour to kind of work those things out. And then we come together as two disciplines and demonstrate for each other what we've been doing during that hour. And it's such a great experience, because now the drama students have all this external thing that wasn't there before, as far as sounds and movement and music and mood and stuff like that, where you imagined it before, but now they're hearing it and stuff. And so it's really neat. And the music students are not even so worried about missing a note or anything, because they're fully engaged in what those drama students are doing. And so they're just making music and improvising as it goes along. And the sharing experience is extraordinary. And that's what I hear from both music and drama students in our little Q&A afterwards, what it did for them. And they said, man, I wish we could just do this on final day because it was so great. But they just really love. And that's a project that we've been doing for several years now. And Paula got to see it. And it was,
I love it.
what do you
I
think
love
about
it. I loved it. I will say when I first when you brought the concept to me of like improv, being a person coming from theater, I was like, how does improv with instrument works? That was a concept that was never introduced to me in band when I was in high school. Um, but like in some ways it just makes so much sense when you see it, because like they were the instrumentalists were really like speaking to the emotions of what the actors were feeling on stage, and it really helped tell the story more. And I wanted to shine a light on that like beautiful interdisciplinary moment, because I will say in this past year's summer program it was kind of hard to have a lot of interdisciplinary time. But this was one of the most like amazing interdisciplinary projects. And if this is something like that, if y'all are into things like that, that's one of the major reasons that I would apply for GSA. Like y'all, I mean, just in awe. Like I'm very excited of the idea of me having 500 students to watch like an entire, like watch more improv. It's a really cool process.
No.
So yeah, I just wanted to shine a moment on that before we go into our Q&A.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I'm glad you did, because like I
Of
said, that was
course.
like one of our favorite things to do
I
too.
love it. I love it. I really, really do.
And I'll tell you, and those who are listening, the music students, like I said, there are a whole lot of music students who, when we start approaching the idea and they first hear it, they're like freaking out. I was like, I don't improvise. I'm not a jazz player. It's like, you don't have to do any of that stuff. And then at the end, almost without exception, they're always like, this was so great. I'm so glad I did it, because, we work with them along the ways. And it opened up their eyes and ears and to other possibilities, because they're not staring at notes on a page, thinking about what's right, wrong, I'm playing the right rhythm and the wrong rhythm, all this kind of stuff. They're just responding emotionally to what they see. And music's coming out sometimes better than if they read it.
One night when I came to watch you all do improv, you were doing improv based on the Wheel of Emotions.
Yeah.
And that was just like, it was like melancholy, and it was like, play a melancholy piece, and everyone was in a small group, in a chamber, I guess that would be the term.
Yeah.
And it was so cool. I could really go on and on about
Yeah.
this, but I will not for the sake of our time.
Sure.
So I'm gonna get into our first question, which is from Gabriel.
All right.
Gabriel says, for workshops that incorporate guests, are the guests people like local college professors, or are there any sort of professionals from across the country?
Yes to both.
Awesome.
We've had, usually when we do our adjunct faculty, because they have to come more than once. And so
Mhm.
that means, and of course, there's only so much budget too. So we can't be flying some extraordinary, virtuoso from France over, a couple times a week, stuff like that. So typically we find our adjunct faculty from close by the area. So wherever the GSA program is, and then they're willing to drive some distance, but we're not going to find people that are probably 3 or 4 hours away. So yes, a lot of people that work with us are local professionals who teach at college, or they have their own private studio, and they're very seasoned and experienced professionals and specialists in that area. While my special area is brass, but specifically trumpet, if I wanted someone to work with the French horns, while I have played French horn and I've taught French horn before, I will bring in a specialist who plays French
Mhm.
horn for a living in orchestras or college or something like that. So yes, we use local, and then we'd also use national and maybe even international guests sometimes in our art form. We've had Kevin Alusha come in person,
Mhm.
and he's also come, virtually as well. But when we weren't doing COVID, he came and did a presentation not only to the whole school, played a little cello for us, but actually came and presented and talked to the instrumental music students. So Ben Solis is another one we've had. Again, he was an all campus kind of performer, presenter, but he also came to just the instrumental music and talked about his journey through music and how he travels and brings his cello on his bike all over the country and stuff like that. So we've had quite extraordinary guest artists over the years that are not just, from Kentucky, they're international as well.
I will say, as the person who one of the people who creates all of the guest artist contracts, I can say for a fact that like your faculty will make sure that if they are not specialized in the area, they're going to find someone who is specialized in your area to get you the attention and the time that you need. And that's a real amazing fact about GSA. So
Mhm.
awesome. Andrea has a question about scales.
Okay.
She says, I am a transposing instrument, clarinet.
Yes.
We just F and then F sharp. And so in our key, correct.
Okay. So when we say to play a C scale, then the clarinetist will play your C scale. That's your C, which means I guess a clarinetist would understand it to be concert B flat. But that is your written C. When you see a written C on the score on the paper, that's the scale that you're going to play. You're going to play C major with no flats or no sharps. When we say to play F major, you're going to play your F major scale, not concert F, but your F major scale that has the one flat. And of course, you're so taught and so well taught as far as to understand what concert pitches for each of those. So those are not concert pitches; those are your pitches. So clarinet F is obviously concert E flat.
Okay.
Sometimes people have a hard time negotiating that because they're just used to saying, just tell me what concert pitch I'm supposed to play, and then they'll figure out what to do. So if I told the clarinet we were playing concert E flat, they're going to play F. But what's on that paper, on the qualifications, specifications, it lists for woodwind players, if it says to play F, it says to play G, they're playing their F and their G, which is concert E flat and concert F.
Awesome. Thank you. Cody says, for the guitar, I typically read off lead sheets.
Right.
Do I need to read off sheet music?
You will, I assume this is electric guitar, the way he's talking. When he's talking about lead sheets, that's probably non-acoustic guitar.
Cody,
So
can you answer in the chat? Is that electric guitar? Well, Cody might have left us. I don't know.
yeah, well, it sounds like electric guitar because usually when you're talking about
It's electric.
yeah,
Okay.
you're talking about lead sheets, so usually it's electric guitar. And so you should try to familiarize yourself with reading notated music, because that's what you're going to get for a sight reading if you get to the next level. But right now, you can read off of, you know, whatever works for you, but just kind of let you know on the next stage, you're going to be able to, guitarists, electric guitarists are going to need to be able to read printed music as well, not just the lead sheet. So I know a lead sheet might just have the actual pitches, if I'm understanding you correctly, not just reading off the chords. So assuming you're talking about a melodic line off of a lead sheet, that's fine. I just want to make sure you understand that you do need to be able to read melodic pitches and not just look at a C7 chord and just play a chord.
Awesome.
You need to be able to read like C, D, E, F, and that kind of thing.
Awesome. Andrea asks, for the personal solo, are we allowed to audition with, if we auditioned last year, can we use the same piece when we're auditioning this year, or do we need to choose a different piece?
That's a great question. And for everybody listening who auditioned last year and wants to audition this year, yes, you can use the same piece you did last year. However, the judges are pretty much the same. And so, and we do have pretty good memories. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. But what you're opening yourself up for is for a different kind of level of critique, because we're going to remember what you did last year. This is sort of an insight that just sort of is part of the nature of it. And then what you did this year. And if it sounds the same, it doesn't show a year of growth. So if you think you've definitely grown and you play that piece a lot better, then yeah, that'd be a great piece. If you just pulled it out because the lack of time and you're kind of busy and you just didn't have anything else to do, which sometimes students will admit, unfortunately, they'll say, I've just been real busy, so I pulled out a piece I did last year, and there's no growth, that's probably not a good strategy for you. So there's nothing wrong with it, but you probably should find something, or you should at least know that it should be showing kind of growth. And like I said, some of the judges are the same, and so they very well may remember that. And sometimes judges are not the same, but you never know. And since this case we are typically the same, it's probably good to do that. And also picking another piece might show some depth of you just exploring other pieces as well. So you can go either way, but like I said, if you do play the same piece, hopefully you've definitely grown on it.
Awesome. For pianists, this is a question from Sarah. For pianists, do our feet have to be visible in our personal solo video?
It just says hands. And I know they would like to see, if possible, maybe the pedaling.
Okay.
Especially if things are blurred and saying some weird, like I'd like to see what they're doing with the pedals. So if it's possible to get the feet in there as well, I think that would be great. It says on the sheet there are just hands visible. So I think we'll probably obviously tell if something's being done wrong on the pedals, because we'll be able to hear that. So I don't think you have to, but if you can, that's fine. But I think it's more critical to get the hands in a good visual, and not so back the camera out so much that we can see everything and barely can see what your hands are doing.
Awesome. And then, have we ever had someone? I'm going to read this question out loud. This is from Gabriel. It's another question that's specific to my own art form. For an area like trombone, has anyone like the New York Philharmonic principal trombonist, Joe Alessi, ever come in?
Joe Alessi has not come in. But we've had some other, what I would call reputable trombonists, maybe not at that level. I'm trying to think I don't know if we ever had Wycliffe Gordon come in. He's pretty internationally well known too, but as far as classical trombones, I don't think we've had anybody at that level.
Okay.
We've had a trumpet player at international level. Vince DiMartino has come many, many times.
Oh, I
But
didn't.
like,
Okay. Yes. Yes, he has. Actually, looking through notes. Yep.
okay.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Well, Rich, can if you could say three to wrap us up tonight, three parting pieces of advice for all GSA applicants, what would they be?
Well, the first one is definitely apply. Do not be afraid to apply. Do not think that you're not good enough. Do not think that I'm not ready. I'm not good enough. Someone told me you don't really need to apply because you'll not get in. Get all that negative stuff out of your head. You really should apply. We really want to see you there. There's a lot of things that go into, besides all those technical things on the paper that we are seeing. We can see a lot of potential. We can see a lot of interest. We see a lot of passion. And a lot of these things, they're not on those pieces of paper. And we can hear these things if you audition. So we're not going to be able to hear them or see any of these things unless you apply. So definitely apply. Please do not rule yourself out because you're not from one of the giant counties in the state, or if you haven't had lessons on a regular basis or at all, because sometimes we've had some of the most extraordinary musical experiences, auditions, watching someone, and I ask them, who do you study with? And I said, I never had a lesson in my life.
Mhm.
So that happens. It's not like it happens all the time, but it happens. So I just really need to emphasize, please don't rule yourself out because someone's told you that you don't need to apply or you shouldn't apply, or you yourself are kind of coming down on yourself and saying, I'm not good enough, because you really, really should apply and share with us what you have to offer. Because I bet there's a lot of great things there that we really would like to see that you have for us. So that's the first thing. And it is strategically good, especially if you're a sophomore, because it gives you 2 shots at it.
Mhm.
A lot of times I've heard this over and over and over, students will say, well, I'll just audition next year when I'm ready. So even going through the process, even if you're not totally ready this year, you still should do it because it's a teachable moment. You really learn how everything works when you go through that process. So, and then definitely, like maybe it's not said this before, but I know I mentioned come prepared. Really, really, really spend the time and prepare as much as you can. Take it seriously, but have fun. Have fun. You know, when you come there, you've done all the work. You've done as much work as you can do. And so that's the time to have fun when you make your tape. And if you get to ever apply in person, just have fun with it and just show us your best side and show us your most musical side, and just, let that passion come through, that musicality just exude through your instrument and your music playing.
Awesome. Awesome. Rich, thank you so much for taking this time. And really quick, I think this is one thing that's super important to instrumental music.
Mhm.
We mentioned that people can apply for up to 2 art forms.
Yes.
So I want to say this and make sure I'm saying this correctly. So if someone is applying for up to 2 art forms, say piano and then woodwinds and brass, that is their 2 art forms. So you could not apply for any other art form outside of that. And can someone be accepted for 2 different instruments at GSA?
Okay. So as the first thing, a question where it's
Oh,
like,
it's more of a statement, and I just
okay,
wanted to make sure that that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
statement sounded
That's how I understand it too. If they're
awesome.
if they audition on violin, they audition on percussion, those are their 2, because it's a different set of judges and a
Yep.
slightly different set of criteria. So yeah, that counts as 2. And then, like we said earlier, just want to point that out. Do make sure you get the recommendations for both
Mhm.
areas, even if it's both in instrumental music, because your clarinet person's going to have something different to say than your violin person. And yes, you can audition. Or would you ask if people
If
have
you
been
could be
accepted?
accepted for two
Yes,
instruments.
that does happen. And in fact, I mentioned Kevin Alushla, but he was actually the very first person we accepted several years ago at GSA on 2 instruments. A lot of people know him besides beatboxing with pentatonics. They know him also playing cello. They've probably seen those Coke commercials where he plays cello, but they don't know that he played saxophone back in GSA in my
Oh.
jazz band. So his audition was so good on saxophone and so good on cello that we said we got to have him for both areas and we'll figure it out. So yes, it's happened. He was the first inaugural person. And since then, we've had several students throughout the years that have been accepted on 2 instruments. If you play 2 instruments well, I'll just have to say this, that's a good thing to go for. if you play two instruments just sort of not so well, maybe focus on one and not just come in saying, because it's again not impressive that you can play all kinds of instruments if you don't do them really, really well, because you're competing against a lot of people who spend a lot of time on those instruments. So some people do spend a lot of time on two instruments and really are really strong on both. You can't tell the difference between the two. They're that strong. But if you're really strong on one and pretty weak on another, let's put all your apples, in here. Let's put all your efforts there, and don't worry about the other one so much. And that's what I would do strategically and stuff. So yes, while they do get accepted in two, that's really because they're very strong in both. We've had people who play piano really, really well, and they play violin and orchestra, and they're great on both. And I'd say definitely audition on both. And then we will decide if you're accepted in both, and then we will figure out places and things for you to do on both instruments.
Awesome. Well, this has been the most joyous occasion.
Yeah.
Rich, thank you so much
Thank you,
for
Paula.
joining us tonight. Thank you all for hanging out with us. Again, if there's any questions that we missed, please hit us up, call us on our helpline, or email us. Again, I'm so happy that you all are here, and I can't wait to see your applications and see your videos when they start rolling in.
Me too.
Yes. All right, y'all. So we're going to sign off for tonight. Everyone have a good night. Stay safe. If it is well, not stay safe, just stay safe. But also if it's cold and rainy, make sure you stay warm. All right, y'all. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye, everyone.